Golf Central, brought to you by TaylorMade.
For the second time in 3 weeks since the resumption of the PGA Tour season, PGA Tour member has tested positive for COVID-19. 25-year-old Cameron Champ, already a multi-time winner on tour, has withdrawn from the Travelers Championship after being notified of his positive test result. With that, welcome inside Studio A on this Tuesday evening to Golf Central. Let's get right to TPC River Highlands. George Savaricas is with us. George, good evening. What is the latest from there on the tour announcing now the second positive test and the management of that positive test?
Gary, we started hearing the rumblings here on property around 4 o'clock that there was a second positive, and then the tour publicly disclosing the information that you just shared, that it was Cameron Champ. And for Cameron, a bit of a stunner as he was just in the midst of his normal prep work, getting ready to play in the Travelers Championship. That is obviously no more. He released this statement through the PGA Tour in which he said, "I feel great, and I was obviously very surprised and disappointed to learn of the test result. It's important now to take the necessary steps and measures to protect others, including my loved ones." The testing policies by the PGA Tour, they had said they're looking into them. They may be revised in the coming days. Earlier, Jordan Spieth, who's one of the player directors on the Players Advisory Council, had this to say on the next steps.
We're going to continue to make minor adjustments. I think, the idea of extra testing has come around. The idea of mandatory tests for anyone who was even within 6 feet, whether they made physical contact with somebody who had a positive test, making those kind of mandatory, because the testing is very, very easy. It goes very quickly. Sure, it's uncomfortable for a second, but being able to mitigate the risk is the number one priority. We've looked into having dinner options so that you don't have to go grab to-go food to keep the bubble even smaller. There are adjustments that are being talked about and will be they'll be made as we move on. When we run into potentially having fans, that'll change things up a bit too.
The concern level definitely escalating for those on the PGA Tour with that second positive in the span of less than a week. Over the coming days, anticipating the PGA Tour to unveil those next steps that they'll take to try and make sure that the policy is a bit more stringent going forward. Gary?
Yeah, George, obviously anything within this hour, I know we'll go back to you on that, as well as stay tuned at golfchannel.com for anything additional on Cameron Champ or anybody else this evening. Now, you've been there a bunch. You know how vibrant this week normally is with the crowds. Not the case. It's week 3 for the players without fans. What is your sense to how they're adjusting and also adapting to this environment?
Gary, this is the new normal, at least for the near future here on the PGA Tour. And it's odd because if you look at the class of player that is teeing it up this week at the Travelers Championship, ordinarily you would have thousands here to see 9 of the top 10 in the world rankings. Different story, though, this year. And you have such an elevated field because guys want to get in those starts, so it almost has a major-like feel. Yet walking around, it's like a junior golf event. So how do players handle that juxtaposition as they're getting ready to play in the Travelers Championship?
Well, I would say it affects on Sunday on the final groups, right? Thursday, if you're the first up, it doesn't really make a difference. It's tough also because you can't see, we don't have standard errors, so you can't just look across holes and see what scores they're at and be a little faster than the scoreboards maybe. But like I said, when it comes to golf, you still, again, you just need to make as many birdies as possible, especially on Sunday down the stretch, because you just know somebody's going to come in hot. I mean, the scores we're seeing, especially last week around Harbor Time, were unheard of. So, again, if you have a one-shot lead going to the back 9, you better hope you shoot in at least a couple on the par because you gotta get it done.
We would love to have fans, love to have the support out here, especially here. I mean, the fans here are always amazing, but with not having that and knowing how deep the field is and just being back in competition and being able to play against the guys, just for all of us, we all at this point are huge competitors. We just want to get out, start grinding, start playing against each other. So for us, it's kind of easy to get the adrenaline kind of pumping and going, because at the end of the day, you're still trying to win a trophy, whether there's fans or not. You still want to get the bragging rights and win the trophy.
It doesn't feel normal at all. If you think about it, every time I've ever played, it's been in front of fans. I think the last time really had no fans was on the Challenge Tour.
It almost is a little bit, it can be a little bit more challenging through the entire round to zero in on specific targets. You're used to having grandstands you can line up. It just provides more targets in the background to, whether it's off the tee and you find something in the distance. Someone's got a neon shirt on and you're like, yeah, I like dropping it on that line. Well, now you got to kind of talk through exactly where you're trying to hit it a little bit more. And then it's just bizarre. I mean, when I got onto the 15th tee here today, I could see the clubhouse. I can't remember ever seeing the clubhouse, and you're normally used to seeing thousands and thousands of fans.
We already knew the first 4 PGA Tour events would be contested without fans, the next domino falling on Monday. The PGA of America announcing the PGA Championship at TPC Harding Park in San Francisco this August will also be contested without fans. A big bummer for Bay Area golf fans who wanted to see that first-time PGA Championship venue. As far as playing in a major without fans, the impact for the guys inside the ropes, here's what they had to say.
We can't have fans at the PGA for health reasons. That's what we have to do. We just got to keep doing what we have to do, protect ourselves, because otherwise we won't be playing. So as players, caddies, everybody here out on tour, we got to do what we got to do and make sure everyone's as safe as possible. But yeah, it's going to have a different feel to it. But at the same time, it's a major championship, so you just got to go out there and go do what you're supposed to do. And hopefully things pan out.
It's hard to believe there's going to be a major champion and nobody to celebrate with, right? I was just like, hey, thank you, right? So hasn't happened yet, but you could have somebody make like a 20, 30 footer to win and can't even hug a caddy because, it wouldn't be okay. So it's unusual. But I think at this point we just need to consider ourselves lucky to be playing majors.
It's a shame, obviously, because last year walking off like the 17th hole, it was just so rowdy and so many people there that for that not to be the case during the final round of a PGA Championship of a major, it'll be a bummer. But I think it's definitely better than canceling the event. I think it's good that we're back out playing, and I've never played Harding Park, so looking forward to it. It
would be easier to win kind of for your first time in a major without fans, just because the atmosphere, it's this Saturday, Sunday. I mean, I'm in Colonial, I was in contention Saturday, Sunday, and it felt like I was playing Thursday's round. It felt no different. It was, you kind of know where you are by looking at the scoreboard, but without any fans and roars and that kind of stuff that make an impact, and then the settings on the last few holes that you normally get at tour events, it's very much different, and I would find it probably I would think it's more comfortable coming down the stretch than it would normally be.
I also spoke with Colin Morikawa, who has some local knowledge to an extent, having played TPC Harding Park more than a dozen times during his college days at Cal.